Hello and welcome to the Texas Instruments Australia webinar program. Our webinar program has grown quite a lot over recent years to now become an integral part of our professional development support for teachers. This complements the vast array of resources that can be freely downloaded from the Texas Instruments Australia website. And some of that is going to be discussed in this afternoon's event. This event, Maths plus Technology equals Gold Medal Performance, will be presented by one of our key panelists and T-Cubed trainers, David Tynan. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon, Brian.
I'm very excited to have David presenting with us this afternoon. You can read on your screen now some of his experience covering several decades of teaching, but also specialist research interests into the use of technology in secondary school mathematics, and array of that being through University of Melbourne. And you never know, you might even be using one of the textbooks that David has prepared for senior mathematics in Victoria. In the background, you've got me. My name's Brian Lannon. I'm also a T-Cubed instructor based in northeast Victoria. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand back over to David. So David, it's all with you.
Okay, so hello everybody and welcome. This afternoon we're going to go through an activity that I have put together, which is inspired by some recent exciting world competition in games. And so I'm going to refer to this as the World Games. And on the screen in front of you, you should see the teacher version of this file. I'll be switching between the calculator and the teacher version of the worksheet, and hopefully that'll all become clear. Just before we get into the calculator part of it, I should explain that this is pitched at year 9 and 10. It could be adapted, enhanced for year 11 or even year 12 in the data analysis or statistics section of your maths course. So the principal statistical question is to look at the World Games, which has been going for over 100 years, and to look at the medal performance of the various countries who have been represented at these games. It's essentially an analysis of a database using a spreadsheet or a database inside a spreadsheet. And I'm going to go fairly methodically through this, but don't stress too much if I seem to go fast or you miss something, because as well as the video, this document tries to spell out all the sort of technical or tricky parts of the database analysis. Okay, so I'll just explain a little bit about the database itself. So I'm going to scroll up here and explain a little bit about the fields or the variables, statistical variables that I've collected data from or compiled data for. And so there are 215 countries who have been represented at the World Games. And the database lists the name of the country, the number of games that they've been represented, the number of World Games, the number of gold, the number of silver, the number of bronze medals, and also the total of the number of medals of any type that have been won by each country over that more than 100 years. I've also listed the population or most recent estimate of the population of these countries in millions, rounded to 2 decimal places. also the area of them in square kilometres, and finally a measure of the wealth of each of the countries based on the gross domestic product per capita of each country. Please be aware, just as a disclaimer, I've tried very hard to have accurate data, but in some cases the data was not as up to date as I would like. I tried to make it the most recent available data, but in some cases the values that I found are estimates that have been produced by various websites of great repute. I should now show you the structure of the data. You'll see there in the screen that there are a number of columns. Each of the columns are one of those 9 variables, and the rows are the data for a particular country. So you'll notice in the 11th row of the database, that's Australia's current data up to, but not including the most recent World Games. Okay, so I'm now going to move to the next section, and then we'll go to the file. We're going to do a number of perform some analysis on the database, but I want to explain a little bit about the nature of a database and how that needs to be treated on the calculator. So I'll now switch to the file, and here it is. So this is the same data, just in a list and spreadsheets app. It would need to be downloaded. It's the World Games file contains the database, and this is the view that the students might see. So just for visibility, can I just suggest that if you're using the emulator and showing this to the kids, that it's better to go into computer view. So if we go to the top right of the screen using the software, the TI-nspire software, I will change it to the computer view, which has the advantage of allowing you to see more of the columns. So that's more like the original grid of data that you saw from before. Okay, it is possible to sort just within the list and spreadsheets app, but it's worth explaining that in the design of the lists and spreadsheets app, it allows you to do cell-wise, column-wise, and that level of analysis. And so it's quite flexible and more like a spreadsheet. If you want to do row-wise analysis, it is a little bit more tricky inside the app. So let me just explain what I mean by that. So I'll just scroll up to the top of the database and I'll select country. So if I go to the top of column A, where it's named the statistical variable country, and if I press up again, I've now selected the country column. And if I hold the shift key down and select to the right, I've now selected all of the columns that have data in them. So that's allowing me to now perform a sort. So I'll just go back to the calculator view just to show another aspect. So now they're all selected. If I go to menu and actions and sort, I can say that I want to, it's a little bit difficult to see in the dialog box. It's going to try to sort columns A to I, and I can say that I want to sort by something else. such as I might want to sort by column B, which is just the number of games that someone's been in. So sort on the column B and sort descending, and I'll click OK. So that's sorted it. I'll just go back to the previous view and scroll over. And we can see that the countries that have been in the most games are France, Great Britain, Greece, Switzerland. So that's maintained the integrity of the data and essentially sorted by rows. So I'm now going to undo that just by doing on the calculator Control Escape. There is a problem inherent with this, that if I just selected a single column and sorted, you'll notice that Afghanistan, the data, they've been in 14 games and only won 2 bronze medals. It is possible to sort. I'll just change this size so I can use sort here, and I could sort descending by column A. And so you'll see now that Zimbabwe is at the top. So it's sorted in descending alphabetical order, the country variable, but hasn't touched any of the other columns. So that's a problem if you want to try to maintain the integrity of your data, because now it's saying Zimbabwe has done 14 games and only won 2 bronze medals. So I will try to do an undo, which did work satisfactorily that time. And because of this issue, I think that it's better if you try to not work on the data directly and just pick out the data that you need in order to do further analysis. So that's what we're going to do, and that's what this this investigation does. So I'm going to go back to a calculator app, and you'll notice that here I have all of the variables defined and I have unlocked them. So what I'm going to do to ensure that none of the database is affected is I'm going to change that, and I'm going to lock all of those variables. So from now on, we will not work directly on the data. We'll, if you like, extract the data, and then we'll perform some analysis. Okay, now I know it might seem tedious, but I think it's worth going back to the worksheet to show what the next stage is. So clearly sort does work, but we need to be careful that we sort it in rows and not just a particular column. So there's an inbuilt command on the Inspire for sorting, and you can sort by a particular variable, and you can choose one or more other variables to sort in the same manner. And that is, you can sort descending by a particular variable and then have things in the same row in another variable sorted in the same manner. So that's really what we're going to do. So I'll just scroll up a little bit to explain what we're going to do. So we're going to make up, so byvar and sortvar are 2 variables that we're going to use just to perform sorting. If it seems like a lot, it will become much easier in a minute after we do some examples. So I have listed as an example, if I wanted to sort the countries by the number of gold medals and then show who the top 10 countries are in terms of the statistics over the last 100 years, I could perform it in 4 steps or 4 commands. First is to make a variable called sort variable or sortvar and assign it the values of the country variable. So we've already got the country variable, you've seen that. And what we're going to do is dump all of the country variable data into something called sort var. And then we want to sort the countries by the variable gold, number of gold medals. So the second command is to say, I want by var to be assigned the values of gold. And then to perform the sort command, so we want to sort in descending order by the variable gold, and we want it also to sort the countries in the same manner. And then the last command is just to show the output of sort var. So those four things we're going to use quite a lot, and a lot of the times we'll be just using copy and paste. So it makes sense to do these things as a single command, and it is quite easy to do that on the calculator. And there's an example screen of one there. We're about to do one. So I'll just do this from scratch to show you. We'll go back to the calculator and we'll perform that sort. There we go. So if you recall, the first one is sort var. So sort var will be assigned, the colon equals will be assigned country, and notice that the variable is bolded, indicating that it's already defined. And then to separate that command from the next command, I'm going to put a colon. Then I can put a couple of spaces and then say that I want the by var to be to be assigned the data from the variable gold. Put another colon, space, space, and now I'm going to do sort D. I'm just typing it in, but you can find it in the menus. Sort D, and then sort it by var, which in our, by var, which is what we want it to sort it by, and we also want the sort var to be sorted. Colon, space, space, and then just show us the output of, or the contents of the variable sort var. So if I press enter now, it will give me the, in sorted order, from, it's really saying that United States have won the most gold medals, then the Soviet Union, then Great Britain. If you do want to see the rest of them, it's possible just to go up to that, press the left arrow to get out of selecting it all, and then you can just scroll across with the cursor button and record those that way. For visibility now, I'm going to change the screen back to the computer view. It turns out to be a lot easier to see them, and I hope that that's reasonably visible for you. Now, we've done all the hard work, if you like. This command that we're going to do, we'll reuse that a number of times. So that's one of the tools that we use in this. And the other thing that we can do to interrogate our database is to look at counting things. So, for example, we could say we want to count how many countries have never won a gold medal. So this is in the worksheet, and the syntax, I'll just change back so you can see the syntax of that. So if I move up, you'll see some examples here of using the Countif. So the syntax and the instructions for that are there. So let's go back to the calculator thing. We'll just do it. So if I wanted to count, if, and now I have the variables. Now I'll just type in gold. So I want to interrogate the variable gold, and I put a comma, And now what I want to do, actually I'll change back to calculator view so it's a bit more easy to see the keys. So what I want to do is count within the gold the occurrences where the entry for a particular country for gold is 0. And the way that you do that is to use a wildcard character, which after the comma, if I press, you'll see on the left of the screen, I press just under the enter key. I want to do the question mark. So the query is that it is equal to 0. And so that's telling me that there are 112 countries that have never won, of the 215, that have never won a gold medal. So interestingly, you can also find, and this was a genuine surprise to me, I could type in the variable medals. Actually, I'll press the var key so you can see where the variables are listed, in case you can't remember the spelling that I used for the name of the variable, and that's medals here. So I'm going to count which countries, or how many countries, have never won a medal, and there are 72, nearly a third of the countries who've played, been represented at the World Games, have never won a medal. So that's quite a striking thing. While we're on this, I'll just copy and paste that to show that you could make a condition such as, are there any countries that have won more than 200 gold medals? And there are 6 countries that have done that. And the examples that are on the worksheet show you some other variations. So you could, for example, find, might as well do it, there are some countries that have got between 50, sorry, I need to make that the question mark there, between 50 and 200 medals. Yes, and you can even use other logical operators like the question mark, is it greater than 500? And you can even use or commands, or less than or equal to 10, say. So it's quite a useful little feature for at least finding the number that meet, of records that meet a particular criteria. Okay, so all this is leading up to the skills that the students will need in order to perform some analysis of the database. Okay, so I'll now go to the next page of the worksheet, and you'll see that, well, really the rest of it is the analysis. This is the things that we want the kids to perform. So just because of the time constraint, I'll just, I won't do all of these questions. Please note that this is the teacher version of this. It has the answers that are in it. And so the students are asked to find the top ranked country by the total medals. And you'll see there that in red, the answers have been filled in. And below the table for question 1, you'll notice there's a screenshot of the command that would be used. I have also added in my answer an extra thing, which is possible on the Inspire CAS, but not on the Inspire non-CAS CX2. So I'll just, can you see that as well as showing the first, well, the ordered list of countries ranked by number of medals, it's also got how many medals there are. So I'll just show that back on the calculator. So we're back here. I'll just go back up here. I don't have to re-enter this. So I'm going to click on that, and now I'm going to go back to the computer view so you can see it all pretty clearly. And I'm going to change this to medals. And I'm also going at the end, instead of just doing sort var, I'm also going to put the by var. So the by var in this case is the total medals. So the advantage of that is that as well as the list of countries, it will show me the total number of medals that they've obtained. Okay. So that's another way that you can interrogate the database. And I now would like to jump to a slightly more difficult part of the analysis, and I'll go back to the worksheet to show this. It is possible for you to list sorted order by performance of countries by combinations of the variables, and we would typically not do this till year 11 and 12, but once you've got the hang of how this is sucking out the data from the database, you're able to have combination variables for what you're sorting by. So in this example, you're sorting by the total number of gold and silver. And so the only real variant is that when you are assigning to by var a variable, instead of it being a single variable, it's the sum of the gold and the silver. So it's an arithmetic combination of a couple of variables. And in number 3, question number 3, there are a few questions for the students to interrogate on using the Countif. So that one's just for how many countries have won between 100 and 500 medals. It's not too difficult to see how they would do that. And again, the answers have been provided. Similarly, you can interrogate the sum of 2 statistical variables. You can say, I'm looking at the gold plus the silver, and can you tell me how many countries have won more than 200 medals that were either gold or silver? And question 5 is about never winning a medal, and we've already done that. Question 6 is a little bit more open. So 6 and 7. And some of the official rankings of countries are based on the idea of the total medals. However, it is possible that you could argue that we should weight gold medals and silver medals and bronze medals differently. And so it's not a large departure from the previous analysis just to say, I want to sort by 3 times the gold, so assign 3 points for a gold medal, 2 points for a silver and 1 for a bronze. And if you do that, does it change the ranking? Particularly, does it change Australia's ranking, which was originally, I think, 8th, and it drops to 9th if you add weighting such as 3 for gold, 2 for silver and 1 for bronze. Again, it's just repeating the same command, but just changing what you're sorting by. And now after that, question 7 is an open question, and it allows the students to experiment with other weightings. It might be that they say, well, 6 points for a gold, 3 points for a silver and 1 point for a bronze. And then if they apply that, what does that mean for Australia in terms of our ranking? And they might come up with there's fruitful discussion about things like, surely we would think that the number of points for a gold should be more than silver, more than bronze, but how much? And should they be in a certain ratio or something like that? However, it doesn't make much difference to Australia. I experimented with many such weighting systems and found that the best thing is for us just to count the total number of medals. That allows us, Australia, to have the highest ranking in the World Games. Okay, so one of the more interesting things for me is to look at ratios of the number of medals per game. So I'll just do this analysis, but by going back to the calculator. And what I'd like to do is to sort not by medals, but medals per game. And I'll do Command Enter so it's in decimal form. And so if you like, that's like the average number of medals per game. And you'll notice that the United States is no longer the highest ranked country, and some other countries have entered as well into that. So that's one sort, and just without going back to the worksheet, you can see there's some other things that you could rank them by. What would, for example, if I did the population in millions? So if we worked out the model, the number of medals, and then factored in the population, and it turns out that Finland is the top ranked country, and then Hungary and Sweden and the Bahamas and Denmark. So clearly there's something else if we factor in the population, and then what happens if we decide to change that variable to the GDP, include the GDP as a factor. So the GDP, and I think it's what it was, per capita. And now you'll see some African countries come in and some other countries that weren't in before. And I'll do Command Enter so it gives a decimal thing. And then the final thing is to factor in not just the medals, but the medals factoring in the GDP and the number of games, and you get a completely different ranking again. There is many more things that you can do in interrogating this database, and I've really just listed a few of those. I would like to finish by going into, you will notice that it's sometimes a bit painful to, I'll just do this one and just the countries, get rid of that. And so you can see the countries there. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I adjust it on my screen, I can make it so that I can see Estonia and Romania coming on board. But it is a little bit painful to look at if there's lots, because each time it's giving us 215 countries in sorted order. And so I thought it would be nice to show a method for looking at, I'm just trying to see this. So this is on a notes page, and the sort variable has been listed, the by variable has been listed, and then sorted. And I really wanted just to show you this command here. That's a nice format that's there, that's showing the top ranked countries from the last command. But I should just explain how it's doing it. This command here, list to matrix, is really getting a list, and it's getting the list called sort variable or sort var, and it's storing it in a matrix, and it's putting it in a matrix where it's saying one element per row. That's what that one is there. And then the submat command is saying, I only want to see the first 10 values in that matrix. And so that's really, this one is saying start at row 1 and column 1 and finish at row 10, column 1. And so that command will give you all 10 of the top ranked countries if you factored in the GDP. And the final thing there, again, to make it even nicer, oh, I've done something strange, is to use the augment command, which would allow you to put the numbers 1 to 10 in front of there. Okay, so just to round up, we're nearly up to our 40 odd minutes. I just wanted to move to the end of this. The students are asked to see how the rankings would change under the influence of population or demographics or number of, or the area of the country even. I didn't even do that one. And then to comment on which of those things, what impact that did have, and why they might be a factor. And then in the last thing, there are just a few teacher notes there that are explaining a little bit of the background to the task, and that might help the teacher. Okay, so I think probably that's a good point to stop. If you have any follow-up questions, as I said, I've just designed this or constructed this recently, and I'm looking forward to using it in my Year 10 class when we move to the statistics topic a little bit later on in the year. So without further ado, this document, or the final versions of these documents, will be uploaded to the T-Cube site, so that you're welcome to try them in your class if you would like. So thank you for watching.
Thank you very much there, David. Terrific. I'm just bringing back to my screen here. And there's quite a bit of activity there in the chat as well. So you've certainly got people thinking about the possibilities here. Many of them actually exclaiming that, wow, I wasn't aware that you could actually do that much with your spreadsheets and the list analysis there. And even something as simple as being able to cut and paste data from out of an Excel spreadsheet. So thank you there.
You're welcome.
Yeah, terrific. And I did type a couple of times into, I'm just going back to my web browser here, a couple of times into the chat there to indicate where the worksheet can be downloaded. It is published already. It's in the section, if you go to the Texas Instruments Australia website and look under the Teachers tab, this is where the activities are published. So generally broken up into Australian Curriculum Inspired and Senior Curriculum Inspirations. They're the main two areas. This one is under Australian Curriculum Inspired, and it sits within Year 10 Advanced, Statistics and Probability. There it is. All you have to do is click on this one and you download three documents there. A PDF worksheet for the students, which David has showed you, and a similar one to that, but also for the teachers, which has some of the some teaching tips and answers within, and also the supporting TI-nspire activity file. And of course, there's a vast array of activities within that. You know, pick your year level, pick your topic. And just have a heap of fun. I think that's one of the best resources available for teachers there. Also for students, there's resources, explore those. Can I just give a quick plug for the TI codes competition at the moment? And technically that's to be launched tomorrow, but I'm going to give you a sneak preview. This is in the process now, so tomorrow the official launch date. But I'm giving you a sneak peek at it, where basically groups of students along with a teacher mentor can enter into a competition that goes across through to, well, submitting by the 22nd of September here, you see, for the stage 1. Stage 2 is the build, and then voting for the best coding project from Australia with, as you saw up here, some pretty good prizes. Check out that one. Another one, people were asking me about professional development. Also in the teacher tab, if you go to professional development here for teachers and also the teacher resources, are you aware that if you have book listed TI calculators at your school, you're actually entitled to claim some free PD tailor-made for your school? So this is in here. It's called the TI Recognition Program. So you've got the capitalized TI in there. And clicking on that, what it does is it opens up this flyer here to indicate how you can claim that. So if you've book listed this, then you are entitled to claim 90 minutes professional development for your school, which would be delivered online. And you never know, you may be fortunate enough to have David as your presenter if he's available to assist you with that. So if there's something that you're particularly interested in, go for it, claim it. Also, you get software licenses for the maths teachers, and here's a new one from last year. I know that Texas Instruments Australia is trying to support schools with the challenges of remote learning, have also very generously supplied licenses for students or school subscription. And it's not one or the other here, you can actually claim the whole lot. So if you're not aware of that, jump into it. Remember, I showed you it's on the TI Australia website. Take a look under the teacher tab and go to teacher resources and, well, teacher resources and professional development. They're the tabs in there. I'll jump back to my PowerPoint just for closing comments. Thank you, David, once again. And a reminder that we also had Peter Flynn preparing materials for this event this afternoon. And as a follow-up, you will also receive the worksheet from Peter. If you do have any last questions, I know David is still online, type them in now. Here's your opportunity to talk to David directly, or even just to say thank you, David, for such an inspiring event. Afterwards, as I indicated before, you'll be taken to the feedback opportunity. Please help us to help you through that. You will receive a certificate for your time in attendance at this professional development event. And if you want to see it all again, yes, it was recorded. You can click the on-demand webinars and watch this and any of the other events that we have recorded, or alternatively view them on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. The best way to stay up to date with all of these things, of course, is to subscribe to the newsletter. You can see the link there on your screen now. And your other option, of course, is just phone Texas Instruments directly. Numbers on your screen now. So that's all from us at this point. Thank you once again, David.
You're welcome. Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye, and thanks to all. Cheers.